Good day and welcome to this Your Party Hustings for the Central Executive Committee elections. My name is Generva Grant and I will be chairing tonight's event. The purpose of this hustings is to give members the opportunity to hear directly from candidates standing for election and to ask questions before voting. As a format reminder, we will follow a standard format across all regions. We'll have a 90-second opening statement from each candidate and 5 questions, time allowing, with 60 seconds, per candidate to answer. We'll try for a 45-second but potentially 1-minute closing remarks in reverse order. To ensure fairness, timings will be strictly enforced. I will give a 15-second warning and candidates will be muted if they go over 5 seconds over time to ensure fairness. I will say 15 and raise my hand at the 15-second warning mark and time when your time concludes. As a conduct reminder, we ask everyone to engage respectfully. This is a democratic process and all candidates must be treated equally. All right, so now that that's through, let's get straight on to the candidate introductions. You'll each have 90 seconds for this. Can I have Joe Hall first, please?
Hi, comrades. My name is Joe Hall. I'm a socialist, an optimist and a teacher. I'm the former deputy head of 2 large schools and the founding member of a Palestinian-led NGO in the West Bank. I want to be a voice on the CEC to make sure that the party really does do politics differently and has the working class at its heart, as mandated by conference. If elected to the CEC, I will be a clear voice to ensure that a self-reproducing political party elite doesn't emerge. I believe that hard structural constraints are needed, not just good intentions. It should remain a working class body by ensuring mandatory term limits, full transparency of interests, mandatory breaks before restanding, worker-friendly meeting times, and elements of sortition. Elections should be conducted where candidates are not given an advantage because of their resources, connections, or level of integration into a political class. If elected, I promise itemised minutes and reports to Southwest branches and members, and to seek a mandate before each and every significant decision. I also promise to push for policy working groups on key issues like housing, climate, public ownership, and developing a radical economic strategy. If we don't do this early, we will continue to lose ground to the Greens and continue to focus on what divides us more than on what unites us.
15.
I've been disappointed to see slates emerging, although I do respect and am ready to work with all candidates, slate or no slate. I would encourage you to vote for independent candidates for the Southwest CEC in whatever order you like. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Next, we'll have Robert William Rooney, please.
Country, us, the wealth creators, or a tiny, self-perpetuating clique of power abusers. A democratic Your Party can change the history of this country, roll back decades of privatisation, endless war, and runaway global warming. My 5-point democracy plan. 1. Conference is supreme. 2. Branches elect delegates to conference. 3. CEC oils the wheels between conference. 4. All positions subject to a 1 or 2 year electoral cycle and all recallable. 5. No rep or employee to be paid more than the wage of the average skilled worker. Then we can take control of the economy, end the rule of the billionaires, support the peoples of the world instead of this country oppressing them. In this election, we need to be aware of candidates who are big on vague promises and small
15.
on detail. No half measures, no selling the people short, no warmed up, mealy mouthed Labour Party Mark II with this authoritarianism. We can do better than that.
Okay, Rob, that's time. That's time. Thank you so much. Next, we will have Stephen Bush, please.
Hi, comrades. I'm standing in this election because I've been asked to stand basically by a local group called LIFT, Local Independents for Tiverton. I'm one of 6 town councillors here in Tiverton. We've had a small local group which we formed ever since Jeremy Corbyn was suspended from the Labour Party, and we all resigned basically. So why am I standing? Well, I'm standing because we have a concern over the ability of small independent groups like ours to continue to exist within your party, and we think it's important to have a voice on the CEC to make sure that remains the case, and to put the cause of small independent groups like ours within the CEC. We think that's very important. We're also concerned about the emergence of slates and the way in which the balance of power might be on the CEC might end up being the two slates sort of facing off against each other. So we're very keen to have independent voices on the CEC. We think that's very important. We think it's very important for member-led democracy. And, you know, as others have said, I will be very clear on feeding back to members about what's happening on the CEC and keeping you all informed. Also very keen to have regional committees. I think we need that
15.
within our structure, and I would be pushing very hard for that. Okay, so I hope people will vote for independent candidates in this election. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we will have Carolyn Parks, please.
Hi, I'm Carolyn. It's nice to meet you. I'm a member of Unite, and I was South Dorset's Labour candidate in the 2019 general election. I was a councillor, council chair and Labour group leader. As Mayor of Portland, I took the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, and Dorset Council to court over the inhumane Bibby Stockholm asylum seeker barge. And with Braverman's recent defection, you could say I've taken a Reform MP to court too. I've spent over 50 years in the Labour movement, fighting for what your party represents, a left party, delivering transformational change for working class and oppressed people. And the CEC will open up structures to make this a reality. As your CEC rep, I'll ensure that policy decisions agreed by conference, your decisions, are implemented in full and in the spirit in which they were agreed. My first priority is the creation of properly resourced branches so that we can effectively organise in our communities. We need branch, district, regional and national structures so that we can communicate and support each other, especially branches that are facing May elections. The deadline for nominations is the 9th of April, so this is absolutely urgent. In your party, we are all the left. I've spent my life working collaboratively with others, and I believe that rooted in our common vision, we can move forward together. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, next we will have Siobhan Ovey, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Siobhan Ovey. I'm standing for the CEC because I believe our party is strongest when it's led from the ground up, by members, communities and shared values, not by distance or hierarchy. I grew up working class on a council estate and was young carer for my dad. When he was declared fit for work during the Atos scandal, despite being bedbound, I learned early on that systems are not neutral, they are built by political choices, and they can be rebuilt differently. Politics for me comes from lived experience. My mum taught me that socialism is practical, human, and rooted in kindness. She opened her home to those with nowhere else to go, despite not having much herself. That's the approach I bring to our party, accessible, inclusive, and grounded in solidarity. Too often, people feel shut out of politics. As someone who has autism and ADHD, I know how inaccessible political spaces can be. Accessibility isn't an add-on, it's essential to participation into participation. Inclusion means people are actually heard, respected, and able to shape outcomes. I'm proudly pro-trans, intersectional, anti-racist, pro-migrant, and committed to international solidarity and climate justice. If elected, I will ensure South West members are connected to decisions, receive clear updates, and have their concerns raised directly at the CEC. I want a party where you feel ownership, where values show up in action, and where grassroots voices truly matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Okay, next we will have Helen Bowers, please.
Hi, I'm Helen. A bit about me. I'm an older member of your party, now living in rural Devon. I previously lived, worked and been an activist in Hertfordshire and London. I was head of sociology in a multicultural comprehensive school. I've led a team in educational services and represented a local authority at appeals procedures. I've led provision for excluded students. I was in the NUT and I'm now a member of Unison. I'm now retired, although since moving to Devon, I've worked as an advisor with Citizens Advice on the benefits team, a support worker for Home Start, and have recently joined as a volunteer an organisation helping local people with housing needs. From being an activist in a wide range of political, electoral and community campaigns, I now, because of the location I live in, have become more acutely aware of the hardships experienced by some communities compared to the privilege of others. There is a distinct polarisation which seems to have become normalised, and the former have little or no representation. A particular concern for me is the obstacles faced by your party members, many of which are older, experienced socialists living in isolated rural villages and towns
15.
in terms of organisation and collective action. I'm a member of Palestinian and Cuban solidarity campaigns. I'm a Morning Star reader and supporter. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, next we will have Mark Gage, please.
Thank you, Chair. I came to politics through C&D and I spent 8 years as a Labour councillor in London and 4 as an independent socialist in Dorset. I'm a member of Unite, PSC and Republic, and more recently I helped set up a proto branch. My passion is refugee solidarity and I volunteered in Calais and I'm a founding trustee of a refugee resettlement charity. I'm standing on the grassroots slate because I want a party that is boldly socialist, a party that puts its members in control of everything it does, a party that is transparent and democratic, one that organises locally with empowered branches that have control of their data and the funds that they need to campaign. We must stop the witch hunts. This party must welcome anyone that shares our socialist values. This means comrades from all socialist traditions. They must be part of building a strong and inclusive mass movement. We definitely don't want to create a Labour Party Mark II. We must build an anti-capitalist and Republican party, a party of peace that protects our environment
15.
and stands with all those oppressed and marginalised by capitalism. We stand with the striking bin workers, with the Palestinian people, with the LGBTQ plus and trans communities struggling for equality. If you agree with me, you must vote for the grassroots left slate. Vote Mark Gage and Candy Williams. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, next we have Terry Deans, please.
Thank you. My name's Terry. I'm 65 years old, originally a native of Northern Ireland in the sectarian conflict at that time, and also an ex-Royal Navy Falklands War veteran. Most ex-military people tend to gravitate towards the right in politics. My journey's been different to that. I experienced as my youth is about how tribalism in politics works and sectarianism, and also how the military machine, the complex within the establishment, exploits our youth in the military. So I've got experience of both of those aspects. My journey has meant, far from going to the right, I actually excluded myself. I felt excluded from politics for up to 40 years of my adult life before Jeremy Corbyn exemplified that by making people feel welcome and making them feel as though they had a worth, that they could be included and participate and be a voice within politics. So I joined, came from 40 years to come in 2015 and then voted for the first time in my life in 2016. So I'm a living example of inclusion and how the party needs to open up to people who don't necessarily think our way. And so that's why I got endorsed by Jeremy on the mini team, because I think that's what we stand for. So this leadership, this campaign to me is about leadership skills. It's about teamwork. It's about cool heads under pressure to make good decisions. It's about overcoming division and factionalism by example. And we need to fight the right, not ourselves, and deliver the mass movement that we need to defeat that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Next, we will have Jennifer Forbes, please. Jennifer.
Hello, my name's Jennifer Forbes and I'm standing on the many slate. I'm a socialist, trade unionist and committed working class campaigner. I started my working life as a BT engineer. I like fixing things and getting things done. I quickly became involved in my trade union and gained an incredible education. From local to national roles, I've had workplace wins on everything from tangible support for Palestine to national sustainability programmes. I put my politics into action. I've now been giving back that knowledge, teaching trade union education for 15 years. I've worked on zero-hours contracts and I've rented privately for decades. I know that our class will never be free until we end the drivers of inequality. As a parliamentary candidate in 2019, against the national trend and despite the establishment onslaught, we increased the vote in a suburban, partly rural constituency. I will take that knowledge from running a people-powered campaign and make sure this party takes the fight to Keir Starmer and reform. For socialists, how we get there is as important as where we're going. That means creating a good political culture where everyone is able to participate and feels valued, and maybe even have some fun along the way. That's the culture I want to help bring to your party. I'm standing for the CEC as part of the many because I believe it's time we leave the infighting in your party behind. We need to start campaigning on the issues that matter most to people, from the housing crisis to poverty pay to Israel's genocide. If we start facing outwards and create the right, inclusive party, then I do believe we can turn this party into a success.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Now we have Candy Williams, please.
Hi, I'm Candy. You might not recognise me because I haven't come through big P politics, but for nearly 20 years I've been organising in the community, from supporting vulnerable young people and care leavers to helping refugees and standing toe-to-toe against racism and transphobia. Most recently, I've been growing Your Party Bristol from 40 to 400 people. And as a Black woman who grew up in care in a council estate, I'm acutely aware that politics keeps failing us. We need something different, a politics that's rooted in members, branches, communities, and workplaces. And as part of the grassroots left, I'm pushing for 3 things. First, data. 60,000 a good achievement, but there are thousands more who could be mobilising with us against the far right on no-cuts budgets and on picket lines. Second, funding. 50% of membership subs should go directly to branches so you can organise, campaign, and be empowered. Third, real radical democracy. We can't just say we're member-led, we have to show it, with motions and decisions being respected and recallable representatives. Finally, this CEC doesn't work for me if it only represents big cities. I want to build a Southwest Forum to make sure that rural communities, coastal villages, and everyone can participate. This election is pivotal. We need an actually socialist alternative that will fight back. And as a care leaver who's fought oppression my whole life, I'm up to the fight. If you too want politics that's different, vote for me and Mark on the grassroots left slate.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for your introductions. We're now going to move directly on to the Q&A. Again, as a reminder, you will have 60 seconds, and I will give you a 15-second warning as previous before the end of your time. Okay, so in the exact same order, with question number 1 being, what leadership qualities and experience do you think you exhibit? And we'll have Joe Hall go first, please.
Thanks. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I've been deputy head of 2 very large schools, over 1,000 people in each school and big staff bodies. And when you work in a school and run a school, you've got a lot of policy kind of compliance to think about. You've got to make sure things are done legally and properly and systematically. So I think I'm quite good at that. I think we need to make sure as a CEC, once we start working, that we really get to the bottom of everything that's gone on in terms of the finances, that we have that access to data, and that we are as transparent as possible. So I think my communication skills are strong as well, and that's absolutely critical. We'll never be a member-led party unless members know what's going on, and unless members have access to as much information as possible. So I will be a voice on the CEC to make sure that that happens. I'm also very, very keen to use my kind of communication skills to make sure that policy groups start working and the CEC prioritizes on that, because I think that's how we engage members and stop drift and stop power being centralized. If we don't do this early,
that's time.
Then, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next, we will have Robert, please. Robert, you're muted. Just click the mic. Yeah, there you go.
Is that okay?
Yep, all good. Go ahead.
Okay. I've gravitated towards leadership positions for the 30, 40 years. I was a father of the chapel at the Hull Daily Mail, NUJ. I was sacked for my trade union activities there. I was the chief shop steward at Hull Unison, where I was responsible for transforming the branch into a fighting union rather than one in the hands of the local Labour Council. I chair the parish council where I live in rural Cornwall, and we have a housing policy which challenges Cornwall Council, which has 22,000 people on the waiting list. I'm the leader of the campaign to reopen Foy Hospital,
15.
and we've just suddenly taken on a struggle whereby the local GP surgery wants to shut the satellite surgery in Polruan, and we're fighting that. I also lead Cornwall Trades Council's needs budget for Cornwall campaign, which is starting to have
I'm
an
going to have
effect.
to cut you off. Thank you. All right. Next, we have Stephen, please.
Hi. So leadership qualities. I'm actually going to go out on a bit of a limb here and say that I'm not entirely sure that leadership qualities are what's needed for the role. I think what's needed is the experience of working cooperatively and working with others. And I think my experience as a town councillor and my many years of experience within political organisations and groups and working with different groups, and particularly in Lift, where we are kind of we're almost like a sort of self-help group for people who've been in various sectarian groups on the left over the years, and we work very well together, and we do that primarily by having good humour and working well with one another, and doing that in a good humoured way. So I'd say that's probably more important,
15.
I think, for the role than wanting to be a leader. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Okay, moving on to the next, we have Carolyn, please.
Hi. Well, I was council chair of a council managing services for 14,500 people. And quite honestly, the group of councillors would be quite cheerfully cutting each other's throats outside of the council. There's a lot of disagreement and a lot of political disagreement. Yet we all managed to work together and pull together to make sure that services were delivered properly for people. And I don't see that sort of role as being any different to the kind of role that you play in a CEC or any other organisation where you have people with strong points of view. We always have to come together, we always have to work
15.
together, and we have to find common solutions to our problems.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next, we have Siobhan, please.
Most of the work I engage in is collaborative or supportive rather than leading. As chair of North Devon and Torridge Your Party branch, most of my work isn't big moments, but making sure that meetings run well, quieter members get heard, and resolving disagreements before they become big conflicts. I've organised volunteers, chaired discussions where people strongly disagreed, and supported members who felt excluded or unsure how to engage. What I've learned is that mostly it's about reliability and communication. So communicating clearly, following through on decisions, and making processes understandable. On the CEC, I'd bring that same approach, listening first with compassion, applying rules consistently, and reporting back so members actually know what's happening. People don't need the CEC to always agree with them, but they do need to trust that it's fair and transparent.
Thank you, Siobhan. Next, we have Helen, please.
Hi, I previously outlined my experience professionally. Those critical roles required me to be a good listener, a keen observer, to have a sense of humour, show empathy, be honest and trusted, and to empower and teach skills of analysis and practice. I believe this makes me a great multi-skilled team player, which is what the CEC needs. I've had to work with people with differences of opinion and bring them together for a common goal. Personally and politically, I've lived through splits in political organisations, which has been totally unpleasant. And most recently, the difficulties have given me PDSA. Nothing has been plain sailing or in my life, professionally or personally, but I remain full of hope, passion and enthusiasm.
Okay. Thank you so much, Helen. Next, we will have Mark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, over 12 years' experience as a councillor has given me extensive experience of chairing committees and working with public groups. Leadership roles in my employment history, where I've worked at a very senior level in technology-led companies, giving me experience in strategic planning and budgetary management of multi-million pound budgets. But one of the biggest skill sets I've had is around conflict management and bringing together groups with disparate opinions to ensure that we can get a successful outcome. I've also had extensive experience of dealing with the media. We rarely get a good innings with the media.
15.
And I've got a lot of experience of dealing with them whilst keeping a cool head and making sure that our views are put across.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next, we have Terry, please.
Thank you. It's literally a leadership position. Collective leadership is the term that we voted for in conference. My leadership qualities go back to when I was a young 21-year-old, when I was in the Falklands War, and we were required, I was promoted above my, given authority above my rank by the leadership then, because I had the ability to calm people down, bring them together in very stressful situations. So I've got proven experience of being cool under pressure and keeping everybody on track. I'm a team player, and the many are a team, so we're already in place to do that. I was responsible for helping the CLP growth in Plymouth when we were stacked against by the right wing of the Blairites. I organised and helped and introduced a 1,000 strong rally in Plymouth when Boris Johnson prorogued Parliament in 2019, and that included all factions and none at all. Good leadership to me is not always about having the answers and solutions to every issue and situation, but it is to have the ability to forge and nurture healthy relationships, to identify.
Okay, Terry, that's time.
To identify and empower those and inspire those who do know the answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Okay, next we have Jennifer, please.
Thank you. Yeah, as a trade unionist, you're always a leader in the workplace, and I've often been asked to step up into leadership roles as the youngest and only female branch chair in my former union, the CW, right up to now as branch chair and regional chair in the UCU. What I think is really important about this question is the qualities and how we can demonstrate that we will uphold the things that we say. So in more recent times, when bringing people together in the Truro and Falmouth area, I've insisted that we're all equals and there's no hierarchy. Nobody's been appointed as chair, because I recognise you can't have a proper democratic process unless everybody is included in to make that decision. When running the rally, I was able to liaise with Jeremy and bring him down, but I shared all that power and invited everybody into the decision-making process about how we would organise that rally, because I think leaders and encourage others. They don't hoard power and they're not sectarian. And the key thing we need is accountability and integrity in everything we do.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. And then finally, we have Candy, please.
Yeah, so having worked as a leader in some organisations and a trustee of charities and community orgs, I get the organisational complexities like governance, data, member engagement, but I don't see this as a backseat leadership role. I hope on the ground in Bristol, people have seen that I combine that strategic understanding with the ability to actually get things done and organise. Communications is key to me. I have a background in linguistics. We're not always going to have the right answers, but we can be clear and transparent. And finally, I'm a trauma-informed coach, so I'm very used to facilitation, conflict resolution. I've embedded accessible and inclusive policies in organisation, and I believe in bringing all people together with humility and empathy and keeping us focused on what really matters. But I also want to say that leadership is not going to look the same for everyone. If we want this to be different, we have to be open to different types of leadership and new styles of operating. And that's one of the things I'm most excited about this role.
Thank you so much, Candy. All right, thank you all for answering the first question so well. Let's move on to question number 2. How can your party offer a compelling electoral platform to win public support? And so we'll start again with Joe, please.
Thanks. It's hard being first each time, so you don't get much thinking time. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and we mustn't lose our principles on the way in terms of how we put together our policies and our platforms. But I'm a strong believer that with kind of member-led policy making, where we set up policy working groups, the branches feed into that, members take part, it's approved by conference, that we can develop some really radical, innovative and forward-thinking kind of solutions to all the problems we've got in the world at the minute. I think we can go a lot further than the Greens. Last week Zach Polanski was talking about giving mayors the right to put caps on rent prices. I mean, that's not even half of what we need to do to deal with the housing crisis. Giving the powers to reform-led councils isn't the solution. We need radical solutions, and that will come through a member-led policy-making process, which is absolutely the heart of everything that we need to do.
Thank you, Joe. All right, next we have Robert, please.
The policies to attract people are already there. We know that people who are struggling now with prices, with they're held ransom by the energy companies, by the supermarkets, by the water companies, all the rest of it. We can solve that at a stroke by being uncompromisingly socialist in our approach, by advocating needs budgets in every local authority, solving the housing crisis by diverting the hundreds of millions of pounds that go to developers into building houses that people need, rather than what developers think is profitable. That we must appeal to people to solve the global warming crisis, which is an existential problem for the human race. We must put that near the top, and we must engage with the trade unions. But most of all, we must go out into the communities. Don't be scared. Campaign on the doorsteps and in the streets, and get them on board.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Stephen, next, please.
So I think what we've learned in local independence for Tiverton here locally is that branches are absolutely key, and slow, patient work locally within local communities and building up a rapport with local communities, listening to their needs and their demands is crucially important if you're going to have electoral success. Now, having said that, leadership is also important nationally as well, and that played a crucial role certainly in the huge vote that we achieved for Labour locally in 2017. So the two things combined would be my answer. We need clear, strong leadership nationally, but we also need the branches to be very, very active and doing things at a local level, day in, day out.
15. Okay. All right. Thank you, Steve. Next, we have Carolyn, please.
The first thing I'd say is, as a working class woman living in a working class community, I know I'm very well aware of the problems that face ordinary people. And we need to bring policies right back to communities so the communities feel empowered and engaged with any kind of process that we use moving forward. Housing in our area is absolutely dire. We have people who are on social housing waiting lists who are going to be on those waiting lists for nearly 80 years before a property comes available for them. We desperately need to enact a massive council house building programme in areas like Portland, I'm sure, and across other parts of the southwest, you have problems with holiday homes. We need to slap so many taxes on that it's completely unaffordable for anybody. Houses for local people. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, next we have Siobhan, please.
So I think our priorities should be embedding ourselves in local communities by building campaigns based on really local issues. So in Devon here, we're trying to build a campaign against the library cuts. I know that Cornwall also have a needs-based budget campaign going on. Lots of dangerous rhetoric sort of starts to begin when people can't pay their rent, they can't see a GP, public transport isn't working for them. So we really need to get ourselves into local communities and educate people first and foremost. And listen to members, just listen to people. And I think the CEC's role in that would be fair funding for local branches, proper resources for campaigns, because a lot of the time left-wing parties down here seem to just leave us behind based on the fact that the Lib Dems and the Tories sort of dominate down here. So I would really like to challenge that sort of idea.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Next, can we have Helen, please?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate most of what everybody else has said, particularly Siobhan, because living in an isolated coastal community has brought it home to me how important it is to listen to the community and the needs they have. Most of you will have seen that a lot of the coast at South Hams has been washed away this week, and it's resulted in major road closures, people not being able to get to school, people not being able to get to work, people not being able to get to hospitals because hospitals are a long way away. So we are in a Lib Dem Tory stronghold, and it's really important for us to engage really closely with people about health services, housing, and cost of living. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Now can we have Mark, please? Mark, you're on mute. Mark, you're on mute. There you go.
Apologies, Chair. Thank you for that. Okay, so the question was, how do we build a platform to win public support? We need bold socialist ideas. We need to demonstrate that we are a socialist party. We're not social democrats. We need to work with people locally and nationally to demonstrate to them that they are not the reason for the problems we have in our country. It is not the immigrants, it's not working class people, it is our capitalist system. And we need to demonstrate that at grassroots level and nationally, and we need to show clear socialist messages.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next, we'll have Terry, please. Yes, Terry, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, a divided party is not going to provide a platform for the public to have faith in us. That's the first thing I'll say. No matter how good, I doubt we're the first people in the history of socialist politics that have come up with fantastic policies. Our issue here, according to this question, is how do we build a platform to make ourselves attractive to the public? So people like me, who politics failed for 40 years, and the 18, 19 million people at each election who don't bother to turn out, who need socialist politics at the end of the day, we need to build that platform of unity and outward-facing, welcoming, worthy. And that's what the many are here for. That's why we've got to put this team together to do exactly that, and we're ready to do that. So that's what I would say. We need to work well together with community projects. We need to outreach. Once we get our own house in order and show that positive platform of inclusion and welcomeness, we can then extend that out into the public and contact with the community leaders, et cetera, to make ourselves more attractive to the electorate.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Next, we have Jennifer, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if we build the right kind of party, then we will build the right kind of policies and platform for us to go out there and connect with the public on. So very much structurally, I think, is the issue that the CEC has to wrestle with here. We have to end the infighting and the navel gazing and remember who it is we're fighting. So if we make the right kind of culture, we'll bring people in, we will be democratic, we'll keep one member, one vote, and we'll enable all of our decide the policies that matter most to them. We'll go out there relentlessly campaigning to the public on those issues that they really care about. At the same time, we'll be community organising. We'll be bringing people together and showing them how they create power amongst themselves. And that lived reality of achieving together shows people what socialism can do. We will take people with us. We'll meet people where they're at. We'll encourage them, we'll enthuse them, and we'll show them that we can create change. And that will build trust and it will enable us to grow. And I think that is the only way we can get forward and win with your party.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, and then can we have Candy, please?
Yeah, sure. So lots of great points made. I believe that we win at the ballot box by winning in our communities. And from the work that I do in communities, people don't have the appetite for another party that's going to show up at their door just before election or just to cut a ribbon. So we need to be there all year round, standing with them on picket lines against cuts when their services are up front, are under threat, and fighting with them. I think another thing I'd really love to add is how we message this and how we talk to people. A lot of people are under the illusion that politics is all the same, and that is historically because of how we framed it and some of the language feeling quite elitist and like it doesn't represent lots and lots of communities. So we need to cut back through the scapegoating that we're seeing and be very, very clear that migrants, trans people, black and brown people aren't the reason you can't get a dentist appointment or afford groceries. We have to name the actual problem in ways that people can understand, highlight the decades of austerity, privatization, and the poor distribution of power.
Thank you, Candy. Okay, now we're going to move on to question number 3. So, question number 3. A member called Barry asked, how can we improve housing in deprived areas so as to tackle the urgent issues of rising rents, shortage of social housing, and in some areas, Airbnb or developers taking over properties that could become homes for people? Okay, and we're going to start once again with Joe, please.
Such an important question. It's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, writing about. The housing crisis isn't an accident. It's a political design, particularly in the southwest. You know, we've got huge amounts of second homes, holiday homes, and there's a huge shortage of housing, particularly in Cornwall, coastal towns, places like Bristol. We need to build council housing at scale. It needs to be publicly owned, genuinely affordable, built where people actually live and work. We need to cap rents so that people pay no more than they can afford. There needs to be a legal right to housing. Homelessness should not exist in the 5th biggest economy in the world. Speculation's a big problem as well. So we need to take land out of speculation so that it doesn't become a commodity, and that can be done through legislation. Developers need to be forced to build social housing. So, we need to push for that. And with reference to the Southwest, we need to tax second homes properly and seriously, and back cooperatives and community land trusts. So there's so much we can do.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Robert, you're next, please. Robert.
Yeah, Cornwall's needs budget for Cornwall campaign covers this. I'm proud to say we envisage in 3 years' time having 87 Your Party candidates standing on a needs budget platform, and one of the chief planks of that is to divert the £259 million that Cornwall Council has shamefully ploughed into hands of developers to build houses that nobody needs, and they avoid by building social housing. That will alter. We have to have our own in-house building company with our own architects and well-paid, well-motivated, well-trained tradespeople providing the houses that people need. It's a simple thing, but it's hard to bring about because it means taking on the orthodoxy.
Okay, that's time.
Pardon?
That's time. Thank you, Rob. Next, we will have Stephen, please.
Yeah, hi. Wow, how do you condense a problem like this into 60 seconds? It's a huge issue. It's something that we wrestle with locally, the town council and the district council. Now we have the spectre of local government reorganisation in Devon as well. What's going to happen to council housing in that? We know that some of the district councils don't even have council housing anymore. So some of us do. So there are huge issues around that. So one of the things that we've been looking at on the town council here locally that I've been pushing for is bringing back empty high street properties into use, certainly above shop and retail premises. We have a lot of empty spaces in our high streets. A lot of them are very neglected. A lot of them are falling down or falling into dereliction, and really need to be taken back into use as homes. And I think that's one thing that you could do very easily and very quickly. It's an easy win.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have Carolyn, please.
Thank you. We need to have a political commitment to building council houses, a massive programme of council houses paid for by wealth and corporation taxes. I was involved in Liverpool City Council in the 1980s, and one of the key things that we did was a massive council house building programme. And I'm really proud when I go back to Liverpool to see that those houses are still there. They're lived in by ordinary working class people. They're beautiful houses, and anything is possible. If we could do it in the teeth of the Thatcher government, then we can do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, next we will have Siobhan, please.
Yeah, so housing is probably one of the #1 issues throughout the Southwest. I live in a 1-bedroom flat, and the flat building next door to me, all the tenants have been kicked out because housing is seen as an investment, not a human right. I politically align with abolishing landlordism, but for the time being, we should be arguing for major expansion of social housing, stronger tenant protections, rent caps, and powers for councils to regulate short-term lets, because they're hollowing out our communities. And the way that the CEC can support this is, again, by funding and helping coordinate campaigns across constituency lines, because this is not something that just affects one constituency. It affects all of us. And it's not an economic issue either. It affects communities, schools, whether young people can stay in their area.
Thank you, Siobhan. Next up, we have Helen, please.
Yeah, I live in an area which is predominantly, well, as I spoke earlier, there's a polarization. There's the people without housing that are having young people having to continue to live with parents. There's people living in overpriced rental accommodation. There's people sofa surfing. And then we have a community of people who have second homes, who buy to let, so they're holiday homes, who have Airbnb businesses, some of those of which I know are genuinely, they need the income from their home, their businesses. I've recently spoken at local meetings, in terms of, because people have avoided or campaigned against housing developments of affordable housing because they are the not in my backyard brigade.
Time, please.
Sorry. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Helen. Next, can we have Mark, please?
Thank you, Chair. We need an absolutely massive programme of council house building. And part of that will be taking homes that are currently on the market, off the market, by compulsory purchase, and making them council homes that are available at capped rents. Tactically, we need to work with community land trusts, and we need to have a programme of returning abandoned and void properties back to the housing market. But one of the other things is that we need to put systems in place to stop this happening again. We need to amend planning law so that we have zones that do not allow holiday homes in, that allow only houses to be built that are for people to live in. Because if we don't get that right, the problem will just reoccur again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we'll have Terry, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question, Barry. It's a great question. Everybody's mentioned that it's probably the most massive issue that we're all facing. We all know about it. And as Joe said, it's a political choice. So ultimately, I think it's going to have to be a political place where the change is made. But I think in the meantime, as a fledgling party, we're not in power yet. So what can we do? We can make policies, as other people have mentioned, about housing, building housing, etc., etc. But in the meantime, we've got council seats we can fight for. We can work well within our communities, community projects to put pressure on those who are in power and sitting on seats that we would like to be sitting on, in our areas and nationally. But then ultimately, to be electable, we need to grow our party into something which is a legitimate party for the people who will ultimately vote us into power. And we need those people to be like a part of this mass movement of ours, outward reaching, in order that we can be elected into position to change those political sources. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Jennifer, your turn.
Thank you. What a great question. This really resonates with me. Somebody, my lived experience of rented houses in Cornwall for the last couple of decades. I've seen all of the horrors. I've been evicted with 24 hours notice when I had a small child. I've been trapped in really unsafe housing conditions on a 0 hours contract with no means of escape. It absolutely blights lives. Everyone deserves the chance to have a house that's a home where they can put down roots. That means we need to create safety and security in tenancies that are affordable. It obviously needs a mass council house building programme, which will in turn help the economy. But it also means looking at the other end of the spectrum, if you like, and the hedge funds that buy up properties in London and they push up prices. They mean that people aren't living in those houses. It pushes people down to places like Cornwall. And then we need to regulate people like Airbnb and all of the other unscrupulous companies out there that are taking up our housing stock, that mean there aren't even places for people to rent locally and they're having to leave. So we can demonstrate our policies in action as well by working with local housing charities too.
Thank you, Jen. And can we have Candy now, please?
Sure. Well, so much has been covered, and this is a common thing I've heard across the Southwest, whether it's Western, Devon, Cornwall or Bristol. The average house, the renting in Bristol is £1,800 a month, and it's a common issue. But we really have to stop developers, companies like Airbnb and Expedia calling the shot. The current housing provisions and planning laws are substandard. So yes, we need council housing, landlord caps taxing second homes. But I think this has to be something that we all really get behind, and something that can really unite us, because it is such a shared issue. So it should be something that we are campaigning for, partnering with organisations on, and really fighting for those council seats so we can make a difference on this to people. Because things just are really not stacking up, and no one should be having a second, third or holiday home when some people don't have a home at all, or they're in deeply unsafe accommodation.
It's time. Thank you, Candy, so much. Okay, now we're going to move on to question number 4. So a member called Gillian has asked, if elected, how would you ensure you represented the disparate environments that make up the Southwest region, apart from national issues, such as rural deprivation, marine issues, such as fishing and seawater sewage? Okay, and we'll once again start with Joe, please.
Thanks. I mean, I see the role of the CEC as being a voice a pair of ears that listens to the branches. So once we've got a proper branch network set up, and every person in the Southwest belongs to a branch, and we must make sure that there's no one left outside of a branch structure, we can then make sure that all these issues, whether it's fishing, marine pollution or rural isolation, are all fed through the branches. And we mustn't presume necessarily that we speak on behalf of people who are affected by rural isolation if we're not living ourselves in rural isolation. We need to make sure that we listen really carefully. It's really important that whoever is elected to the CEC has that regular consultation. We have to survey members. We have to make sure that they feel that their voice is included. And of course, we need, like housing, which we've just talked about, we need to make sure we have proper policy making processes that really build what I would call, radical and, standout solutions to these major issues.
That's time. Thank you, Joe. Next, we will have Robert, please.
Well, I think we have to be confident in our ideas, socialist ideas, provide the answers for all the problems that exist in the Southwest, whether it's rural or whether it's urban. And, we just go out into the communities, we talk to people, we build campaigns, and we get people behind us, and we put candidates up at elections. And those people who vote for us, whose vote we are seeking, will see that we've been there, we've done the talk, we're doing the walk, and we are there, and we mean, and we will carry through these policies. I mean, the water, is covered. We take water into public ownership with no compensation paid unless proven need can be demonstrated, because they've had a party, these shareholders, for 40 odd years at our expense, and we can see the result in our beaches and in our rivers. So we just advocate socialist policies, and the people will come to us.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. And then next we will have Stephen, please.
Yeah. So it's going to be very difficult for whoever's elected to keep in touch with all of the issues in a region the size of the Southwest. There's no doubt about that. And I think that one of the only ways that you could do that is, if I was elected, is to make sure that I keep in touch with branches on a regular basis, going and speaking to people and finding out what's going on. But I think we would also need to encourage branches to participate in things like, so for example, in Tiverton here, we've been taking part in regular water testing in the river to make sure that discharges aren't going on, and to monitor the levels of any sewage that are in the river. That can be done, but branches could be taking part in that kind of activity. So constantly monitoring what these companies are up to, what these businesses are up to, is very crucially important.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we will have Carolyn, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Gillian. I think part of the problem is that although these are regional issues and regional problems, they're really, the solutions are national solutions. It's all about resources. And if you under-resource a region, then what tends to happen is special interest groups will hive off whatever cash there is allocated to a region to their areas of interest rather than areas of need. And I think the most important thing to do is to identify local need and to make sure that we have the regional structures that then can feed into national government to make sure that our areas are properly resourced. I, for example, live in the poorest ward in the South Dorset constituency, in the area of lowest social mobility in the whole of the country. There are children that go to bed in this ward cold and hungry and in the dark, and this is happening in the 21st century.
Thank you so much. And then now we'll have Siobhan, please.
Yeah, so rural deprivation often gets missed off because it's less visible than urban poverty. But access to healthcare, transport, and secure work is a lot more harder to be seen nationally. So I'd be interested in communicating with local branches. I know there's a lot of anger where I live in Devon about seawater sewage and the dumping that's taking place in our bathing waters, making them basically unusable. I'd be specifically interested in visiting communities that I don't have much experience in. So I don't know much about fishing. I would really be interested in visiting local fishing towns and having conversations with local members there. And then bringing them back to the CEC and discussing how we can support these campaigns. If local concerns are reflected in national conversations, then we can feel more ownership and pride over what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you, Siobhan. And then next, we'll go ahead and have Helen, please.
Yeah, because I live in a coastal village, I'm acutely aware of some of the aspects that Gillian has referred to. If I could just to help you out here regarding fishing industry, my local crab fishermen have been on our news regarding the fact that the crabs aren't being caught anymore, octopus are being caught, and this is the direct impact of climate change. So not only is it a local issue, that becomes a national issue, as does the dirty water. The problems that we've had locally with Southwest Water and hundreds of thousands of people not being able to turn their taps on for weeks. There isn't a shortage of people down here who will campaign. It's just that we have to steer them in the direction of what is going wrong and why it's going wrong.
Thank you so much, Helen. And then moving on, let's have Mark now, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I mean, yeah, the Southwest is a huge and disparate region. You know, we've got some major urban centres, Falmouth, Exeter, Bristol, and yet we've got huge rural communities and, of course, the coastal communities. What we need to organise our branches, get people into those branches and get them feeding the information up and into the party structures. But the reality, of course, is that what will come back from those branches will be different according to which branch we're talking to and where their problems lie. And what we've got to do is we're going to make sure that who we're talking to, that they get an equal hearing. And as one of the other speakers said, I think it's going to be really important as a CEC rep to actually get out and walk the Southwest, to actually see people face to face and understand their problems.
Okay, it's time. Thank you so much, Mark. And then now we'll have Terry, please.
An awful lot of elements there, 60 seconds, but I would apply that in the same way as we dealt with the housing issue, really. So principles of policy making and how we create that as a party. So I mean, the coastal and the river sewage issue is one of the worst examples of the corrupt, rigged system that benefits the few, and that's who we need to stand up against, that system. So I would say that we need to have an effect. This is where good effective leadership in the CEC comes in, because we can empower and have healthy branches, and reaching out to community leaders, the public, to identify the best solutions to the problems that we're facing, and all of these elements. And this is why I think that this party needs to be so strong as far as its outreach and inclusive, so that we can be contactable, we can be approachable, and we can find the best solutions and apply those, because at some point, those policies that we generate through that, we have to represent that in government, and that's where we want to be ultimately. Thank you.
Time. Thank you, Terry. And then now let's have Jennifer, please.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously this question, again, I think there's some real issues in so many places around the Southwest, and what we want is for people to feel like they're heard. Here in Cornwall, people have often felt disenfranchised by political systems that miss them out when we have lower than average wages and higher than average costs. So what we need is a system within the party that will enable people to participate and feed in their hopes and needs for policy making. And everyone's mentioned branches, but I think it goes beyond branches. I think it goes into the assembly model that we've used already, and that means we can use that to engage really constructively, not just with members, but with the public as well. And if we fix our internal culture, not seen as just infighting, people want to engage us in the communities, and we can show that we can not just feed into national policies, but we can achieve now through community organising together with the people that we want to stand up for.
Thank you, Jen. And then now we'll finish off this question with Candy, please.
Yes, so lots of great things spoken about. I agree with Siobhan that it's too often urban and city focused. I've really enjoyed hearing from other Parito branches across the Southwest about some of the key issues here. I think one of the core things that we need to be doing is holding ourselves accountable to be much more outward focused, doing a lot of work in the communities. There are people who just simply don't feel heard. So we need to be really putting some emphasis on those assemblies and challenging ourselves for it to not just be the same faces in a room, but actually bringing people to those assemblies and hearing those issues and being able to campaign and support them on them. This is another reason why I feel that the Southwest Forum and having a means of bringing branch reps together is going to be so important. It shouldn't just be the case that a few areas are being heard. We have to understand those rural issues, the coastal issues, so we can really maximise and support them. But I do think that the CEC really offers us an opportunity to look at where we put the resources and to make sure that some of the smaller places aren't just left out of the conversation or feeling unsupported.
Okay, thank you so much, Candy. And because we've been really on time and militant with this, we can move on to question 5. So I'll just read it out for you. How do we build a welcoming and inclusive political culture in your party? And then we'll begin this again with Joe, please.
Okay, the short answer to that is, well, it's twofold: by leading by example and making sure that as a leadership group in the CEC, we model inclusivity and treat each other with the respect that we all would anyway. But more importantly and more structurally, we need to make sure that we ask our members if they feel included. And I think, you know, that sounds simple, but we don't do it enough in organizations. We need to ask members and potential members what they need to, in terms of being included and involved. So if people are living in rural isolation, how do they want to engage with the party? Do we go to them? What balance do we need between online and in person? I think those of us that were at conference, there were a number of issues there in terms of access. How do we make sure that people can travel, can afford to travel to events? What balance do we want? And it all comes down through consulting members. And of course, as people have already said, we need to make sure that the party is also fun, has a social side, builds youth branches and groups, and we think about every single member and every age group and every demographic.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Robert, you're next, please.
Yeah, the other week we had a Cornwall-wide Your Party meeting at Lanivet, which is the geographical centre of Cornwall, and I think 23 people turned up, and we were there for 2 or maybe 3 hours. Which we had half an hour for dinner, where people mingled and we talked about the issues in set debates. Everybody sat in a circle. Everybody was fine with each other. And what came through loud and clear afterwards was that the organisers were thanked by several people for arranging such a inclusive and friendly and comradely meeting. So that's how to do it. We do it already. So I've heard a lot about infighting and getting the party back on track. That's all about different political agendas. All these agendas can be accommodated within a democratic organisation. All we need to do is get the democratic right, and the rest will follow.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Thank you. Now we're going to have Stephen, please.
Yeah, so what we try and do locally is with Local Independence for Tiverton, the organisation that we have that exists at the moment, is that we try and keep meetings short, entertaining as well, fun, and we try and we're very inclusive. We have meetings that are online or hybrid meetings as well, if we're having in-person meetings. So it's very important that people are able to take part, that they feel heard, that they feel listened to, but that also, as I said, that people are having fun as well as just being serious all the time. It's very important to have the discussions openly and honestly, and I think if you're doing that within a framework where you feel safe, within a group that you feel safe with, then that's much more easy to do.
Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, now we're going to hear from Carolyn, please. Carolyn.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good.
Fabulous. Can I start?
Yes.
Thank you. I've left the Labour Party twice. The first time over the Iraq War and the second time in August last year over its rightward drift. And in those period of years from 1983 onwards, I've experienced nothing but grief, aggression, witch hunts, purges. It's not been something that I can say I've enjoyed, although I've spent quite a period of my life fighting for socialist principles within Labour. I don't want to see that happen in your party. And with that in mind, I would ask everybody to bury the differences, to move forward together, to be kind to each other, to listen,
15.
and to reach out to all in our communities, all of the people who are unrepresented in other areas of politics. Your party needs to be a kind party. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And now let's have Siobhan, please.
So a welcoming and inclusive political culture means not just living it through slogans, but also baking it into our structures within the party. It means that we all need to be working collaboratively with national collectives that have already been established, like your party disability group, LGBTQIA+, and the young people and young students group. I also have an idea that I would like to implement the Southwest Support Branch Network, where we can support branches that are maybe struggling to get off the ground. More established branches can help out by providing resources and advice on how to facilitate and conflict resolution. And also Southwest Solidarity Pools. So you have an assigned person within each branch to give lifts. You can drop food off, products that people might be able to use that might hinder their attendance to meetings.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. And then now we'll have Helen, please. Helen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we promised ourselves a new way of doing things, a new way of politics, which is from the base upwards. And it's really difficult for us to dictate how those people who want to feel included and welcomed, how they would feel. And yes, they have to determine that. But we need to redefine methods of maintaining unity and building consensus. I think the most important thing is for members' welfare, that we have a safe space to share and to ask for help and support. And this is all going to be new. There's no book. Mistakes will be made, and we don't want to get into any sort of blame game. We need to explain and to help comrades as far as we can to work in a cooperative way and share knowledge and expertise.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Now let's move on to Mark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just sort of say some of the things that we've learned through running a proto branch in West Dorset. We've learned that we've got dreadful transport links, so hybrid meetings are absolutely essential. We've also taken great steps to make sure that we always have accessible venues, and we've talked to the local LGBTQ+ and disability communities to ask what they would need to feel more inclusive at our meetings. When we post things, we make sure that they're done in an accessible format. But the bottom line is that we try to really make our meetings as friendly and welcoming as possible. We always have a breakout session at our meetings to ensure that those people who don't feel comfortable getting up and standing and speaking still have an opportunity to play a part and get their point across. And we do simple things like we have tea and coffee at the start, so people get a chance to have a chat before the business of the meeting starts.
Time. Thank you so much, Mark. Now let's have Terry, please.
Yeah, look, I love this question because it's right up my street. I'm a living example of what needs to happen to make this party more attractive to the public and more welcoming. 40 years feeling disengaged, disillusioned, not welcome. And so the best example I can think of, the model to follow, is the one that Jeremy Corbyn set us all back in 2015 and changed the culture of this country, politics, and created the largest political party in Europe. and brought so many people back in who had before had not been engaged. So I think this is the heart of the matter. Optics, the public, how we see this, how we come across to the public. So that's what I think we need to be focused on. And I think that we need to look at formulas and role models of how we can exemplify as a CEC, how our culture needs to be within ourselves as a team, and how we work together and how we create the right ambience and the right culture within our branches to make ourselves appealing to people to come in from the outside.
That's time. Thank you, Terry. And now can we have Jen, please?
Okay, I think it's really important in answering this question that we look beyond the slogans and we look at practices and the values that people exhibit when they have a chance, when they have power. Recently, there was a hustings organised in Cornwall, and when I explained that I couldn't make the whole thing because of work and family commitments, it was met with howls of outrage. It was organised by the sectarian left groupings in Cornwall, and they actually discussed and took a vote on banning from the whole hustings because I couldn't make part of it. There's absolutely no way anyone would think that's democratic, inclusive or fair. But these are people that chant maximum member democracy. So I think it's really important that we look at what people will do. Now, those very same people, I knew we weren't in a political alignment when I organised the rally, but I invited all of them in to power share. And my promise to everyone is this, that I will always do the right thing. By all of the members, I'll rise above all those tactics and make sure that we always are inclusive. We don't have to agree with, we just have to debate in the right kind of way, and then build the kind of party.
Thank you so much, Jen. And now let's finish off the question section with Candy, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is a question that's close to my heart and one I could talk about for an hour. I mean, as a Black care leaver that didn't come through traditional routes and is often the only Black person in the room, I feel extremely, extremely passionate about making political spaces more welcome. And I agree we have to go beyond the slogans, beyond talking about anti-racism, just as protests or building multiracial coalitions, and ask ourselves why these spaces are such lacking in representation. So inclusivity and accessibility needs to be a standard. As first, we need to reduce the barriers. Hybrid's important. The UK reading age is 9 to 11, so we need to be much clearer in our language. But we also need a culture of respect and solidarity when people are newer to political spaces, not smearing them, not witch hunting them, not condescending or patronising them, but supporting them and making spaces that actually feel safe for the people that I speak to in the community who feel deeply unrepresented. We're lucky that in your party, we already have some amazing groups, the Disability Network, Trans Liberation Group, the Youth Wing, the Muslim Network, and these are the voices that have long been excluded from politics that we need to be listening to.
Thank you so much, Candy. All right, now we will move on to our last segment, candidate closing remarks, which since we've done so well on time, we can have the full minute, but please no longer. And then we'll just have some closing remarks from me. Okay, so for the first candidate closing remarks, we'll have Joe.
Thank you. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes, and I don't think I've heard anyone say anything that I fundamentally disagree with, and I think it's been really empowering. I think all of the candidates would be absolutely fantastic, safe pairs of hands on the CEC. So it's been a wonderful experience. To thank you, everyone. Just my closing remarks would be that I really do think that we need to focus on policy, and I think having policy working groups that are every member takes part in, are fed through from the branches, are mandated by conference, are facilitated by the CEC, will make sure that we do focus on policy. And the best discussions we've had this afternoon were on things like housing and sewage and isolation and inclusion. And that's how we bring back people to, that's how we bring the party together. If we don't do that, my worry is that, policy will drift, power will centralize, and members will disengage. So a workers-led party, let's try and get some independence on the CEC. It's really important. And thank you to everyone. And thank you to all my fellow candidates. You're all brilliant.
Thank you so much, Joe. All right, next up, we will have Robert, please.
Yeah, I think we should never lose sight of the fact that 800,000 people gravitated to your party as soon as Zareth Sultana made the announcement back in July. And before that, 500,000 people signed up for Enough is Enough at the height of the strike wave in 22-23. And before that, in the 2017 general election, 1 million UKIP voters came over to Labour because of a half-decent manifesto. So the yearning for something that we have to offer is out there, is the vast yearning, and it's incumbent on us to get it right, to accommodate differences, but iron out those differences in a democratic way and move forward, offering people the policies which they need and they want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. And then next we'll have Stephen, please.
Yeah, well, thanks to everyone for organising this, and thanks, comrades, for listening to us. I think the important thing is that this is, you know, what a wonderful bunch of people we have here, and I think it would be great to get everyone on a regional committee, as I said. And I also, isn't it wonderful that you can basically rank us all in order of preference? You've got the voting is done on single transferable votes, so you can do that. I think it is important to vote for independence. I would urge people to do that, because I think, as I said, my main concern is that we end up with a bun fight between the two slates on the CEC, and I think we ought to try and avoid that at all costs. But thanks for listening, comrades.
Thank you so much, Steve. And then now we'll have Carolyn, please.
Firstly, I want to say thank you to all of the people who've supported me in this election. Thank you to people who've turned up on a Sunday afternoon to listen. And I want to say thank you to the South West candidates for their comradely engagement in the process. I'm not on a slate. I'm standing as an independent because I believe I can work to bring us together to ensure that the voices of ordinary members are heard in all decision making. Unlike Labour, there's no left and right here. We're all the left. And as lefties, we sometimes make a big deal about what divides us and ignore what unites us. We can't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by repeating these mistakes, because people need our socialist transformation of society. So let's ditch our differences and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Let's move on now to Siobhan, please.
I'm grateful to be here, and I'm aware of my privilege that I was able to participate at short notice while many candidates across the country haven't been able to. This speaks to a communication gap and a lack of consultation with members that we need to fix so everyone has a fair chance to take part. If elected, I would support clearer updates after CEC meetings and a simple national and regional communications collective linking members to branches so information flows both ways and you know what's happening and how to get involved. I want to help build a party that listens, is transparent, and truly belongs to you, the members. I care deeply about the South West, its rural members, for accessibility, and for a party where participation is real. Real change only happens when ordinary people are able to step forward and be heard. And always remember, well-behaved women seldom make history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. Now we're going to move on to Helen, please.
Yes, I'm passionate about education. I believe that in order to achieve our vision, members and supporters need to develop clarity about how capitalist systems dominate and repress. Political education is empowering. It fosters analytical skills, builds confidence, and addresses insecurities. We have to understand the world in order to transform it. I suggest this could be achieved through an ongoing political education and dialogue. I'm eager to help make this educational opportunity available. If elected, I would endeavour to use my experiences, help to set up systems such as day schools, book groups, and small discussion groups within your party. Please vote independent.
Thank you so much, Helen. Now we're going to have Mark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be a bit serious here. Make no mistake, these elections are for the heart of this party, and they will decide whether we drift off into the long grass of social democracy or whether we become a party that has bold socialist roots and bold policies. We've got to stop what we've been doing recently. We've got to stop the expulsions and stop the witch hunts. And we've got to start bringing the socialists into the party and bring them on board. If you're happy with the way things have been run the last few months, you know who to vote for. If you want change, vote for the grassroots left slate. Mark Gage, Candy Williams.
Thank you so much, Mark. Now we're going to go on to Terry, please.
Yeah, thank you, Giovanna. Geneva, sorry about that. Look, to me, it's inclusion over exclusion. We need to reignite the flame that was lit last year to give us all hope again that we're going to get this fantastic, once in a history of British politics of having a genuine socialist party, member-led. This has never been done before. Building a new party is bad enough. Trying to transition from a top-down party to a bottom-up one is an even bigger challenge. It's a unique situation. It's an exciting opportunity, one I never thought I'd ever get near in my life. And so I think that requires a unique skill sets to do that, to be able to navigate this party through its early stages and become stable and strong and outward facing, and let people come into this party, people who don't necessarily think like us, and let them come in and enrich. We're going to hopefully build into a mass movement. It's going to be more than 50 or 60,000 members, maybe 200,000 or 300,000 in a few months or a couple of years' time. So people are going to enrich that as we go forward. So I think that the many team are ready to do that, and we're representing the reignition of that enthusiasm from last year and able to make this into a mass movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then now we're going to go on to Jennifer, please.
I'm proud to be standing with the many, back to the original popular vision of a bold left-wing alternative political class. Hundreds of thousands of people were excited by your party, but they've been turned off by the navel-gazing and the self-sabotage. With the CEC elections, you have all got a chance to decide, are we a party for the people or are we a party for ourselves? The many will campaign to make your party a mass part of the left, to bring real change with approach. Build support by campaigning tirelessly on the issues that matter most to people. Secondly, repair our coalition, reuniting our cross-community alliance by focusing on what unites us, not what drives us apart. And thirdly, organising our class, reuniting people and campaigning together. And we will, as our leader, drawing on the biggest, give it respect and affection the masses still have for Jeremy, and we can make your party succeed. Vote for the many, Jennifer Forbes and Terry Deans in this election.
Thank you so much, Jen. And then now we're going to finish things off with Candy Williams, please.
Yeah, so I would echo Mark. This is a pivotal election. It's the choice for us. Do we want a Labour 2.0 or do we want the truly democratic party that we all signed up for, that is rooted in our branches and communities? This party isn't about any one leader. It's about you. It's about the people. It's about the amazing branches and members I've met across the Southwest. And that's how we will build power. We need to be outward facing and ruthlessly focused on what people need. We're talking about fighting reform and the far right. That isn't an abstract concept for me. It's a real threat. Racism, transphobia, and hate are rife. And we all join this party because we want to fight back and build something different, which is what we need to do. I really want to help us grow and create welcoming, inclusive spaces where people don't feel judged by how many books they've read or what rooms they've been in before, because we all share a frustration with how things are right now. And I believe if we can direct that into actually building something that actually makes people's life better, we can be the alternative socialist party this country needs. If you believe the same, rank myself and Mark first.
Okay. Thank you so much to all candidates. Just a few quick closing reminders and remarks to highlight. Thank you everyone for your participation and everyone for coming out and watching today, or if you watch it later in the day. Just some closing things to highlight and reminders. Voting opens on Monday, the 9th of February and runs until Monday, the 23rd of February. You can find out more about the CEC elections, including all the candidates standing in the West Midlands and public office holders roles at yourparty.uk/cec.elections. And remember, in order to vote, you must have verified your account. You can do this at yourparty.uk/verify. So good luck to all candidates standing, and thank you all so much for being here today and doing your best. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.